the economy is not as stable as it should be. It's still very difficult to buy groceries and gas, and day to day expenditure hasn't really come down. Throughout the debate, I think she was more positive in her approach. She looked really well prepared to answer every question. Kamala Harris was given the responsibility of, she was also called, quote unquote, the border czar. And her approach was that they are doing everything to control the borders.
Hello, I am Rohit Kulkarni and welcome to One India English. This year is full of election seasons world over. We have seen Britain election, France election, then Indian general election, and now we are looking forward to US election, American presidential election. Recently, we watched presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And to talk about this debate, we have very special guest, Mr. Rohit Kulkarni, joining directly from Washington, D.C., America. Welcome, Rohit.
Thank you so much.
Rohit is senior journalist, he is media consultant, and he has also worked as managing editor of the channel Voice of America. So, Rohit, after this presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, what is atmosphere in America? What is the feedback? What is the reaction? And what is excitement?
Thank you so much for having me. First and foremost, I think after the debate, I mean, everyone was surprised to see the performance put together by Vice President Harris. She not only exceeded the expectations, but she won the debate hands down. Now, it would be interesting to see what kind of effect it has, or her performance has, on the outcome of the elections. Early polls have shown that she didn't get a great deal of bump after the debate performance, but no one expected her to do as well as she did. And she really bamboozled Donald Trump for almost 1 hour, 45 minutes, where he wasn't himself. He wasn't able to talk about the issues that he wanted to talk about. And he was left defending most of the time. She set the tone early in the debate when she went across the podium to shake hands with him. And the mic was switched on, and you could hear her saying that, "Hello, I'm Kamala Harris," almost like introducing herself. And I think it must have taken him by surprise, because throughout the course of the debate for almost an hour and 45 minutes, he looked like a deer caught in the headlights, and he wasn't his usual self.
So, Kamala Harris was Attorney General of California. She is a professional lawyer. Her performance was as expected in this debate. But how was her body language, and what was Trump's response to her body language and questions?
I think there are lots of memes about her body language and the way she was looking at Trump, and the way she was mocking Trump. I think she had a more playful approach to this debate, whereas Trump looked like an old man who was very serious throughout. He didn't bother to look at her. Only I think there were a couple of occasions where he tried to make a statement where he said, "Oh, sound familiar? You are disturbing me," and that kind of stuff. But throughout the debate, I think she was more positive in her approach. She looked really well prepared to answer every question. And she set the tone right at the beginning when she said that you're going to hear a lot of lies and a lot of garbage coming out of from her opponent, and which really set the tone. I mean, she didn't allow herself to be bullied by Trump, and Trump never got into the second gear throughout the debate.
In that debate, Trump said immigrants ate pet animals, such kind of lies. So what is the reaction in US?
I think it was very childish of him, and even his camp, or even his supporters, they realized that he shouldn't have said those things, because he relied on some news coverage. And to be honest, even I had read some reports like that, but there was no authenticity to those reports. It was very childish to bring it on the national stage, especially when you're talking about a serious issue like immigration, which is actually his strong point. I mean, immigration and economy. Even to an extent, some of the things he says about the foreign policy aspect, they were his strong points, but he wasn't able to make those points because I think he got sidetracked by the way Kamala Harris started this debate, and the way Kamala Harris approached this debate. And he wasn't able to make, so he went on to say these stupid things that he should have never said. I mean, there was no authenticity to saying that these Haitian immigrants started eating pets and started eating those pets.
You mentioned economy and illegal immigration. Trump blames Kamala Harris for illegal immigration, porous borders. So, what is Kamala Harris's stand and defense on this issue?
Well, I mean, this issue has been one of the mainstream issues for last 3.5 years. In very recent polls, it was shown that this issue now is the primary issue, or one of the most leading. I would say the number one issue for the elections. Kamala Harris was given the responsibility of. She was also called quote unquote the border czar, and her approach was that they are doing everything to control the borders, but this has to be passed into a legislation. This immigration issue is not. It's a very complex issue. Both parties have been at it for last 10 years or more, maybe 20 years or so. The problem is that this year there has been a huge deal of immigrants or a huge number of immigrants that have entered the US from the Mexican border. By some estimates, it was 11 to 15 million. According to Trump, it is more than 20 million. And these illegal immigrants have, flocked American cities throughout, from Seattle to Washington to LA to New York, and it's causing a lot of problems in these cities. And there are the Haitian immigrant issue. I think was in the state of Ohio. Harris has been, has been a little weak on this issue because she has previously not been able to control the influx of these immigrants. Now they have put some strict measures in place, so the number of immigrants coming through the porous borders had decreased. But
so immigrants are coming to America via Mexico. So there are some Indians also in these immigrants.
Well, these illegal immigrants are coming from all over the world. It's difficult to pinpoint, the kind of, how many immigrants are coming from which country. But there were reports that even some of, some illegal Indians who entered the country, they entered through Mexico. And mostly these immigrants are from, poor countries in Latin America, or, his Spanish-speaking countries like El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and so on. But there have been immigrants from other places like Africa, Asia, and so on. And it's much easier to come through the Mexican border. So I won't be surprised if there are illegal Indians who are also entering from these places.
Important issue is economy, unemployment, cost of living. So what is the situation in America?
I think economy is by far the second most important issue. I mean, as you know, the inflation was really high about 3 years ago. It had almost reached 8.5%. Now the inflation has gone down, but the fact still remains that what holds in the future. I mean, how the economy is going to do in the future, and what is going to happen to the job market. I mean, the job market has been, both administrations. Even Trump claimed that he created many jobs, the greatest presidency in the history of America. And same with Biden administration, where they claim that they have created the highest number of jobs. But it's difficult to say because the economy is not as stable as it should be. It's still very difficult to buy groceries and gas, and day-to-day expenditure hasn't really come down, and it's especially difficult for low income, middle class, or lower middle class families to deal with the rise in prices of day-to-day groceries. So it is going to be an important issue, and both are trying to say that they will control the economy. Obviously, Kamala Harris was trying to say that's what she's going to do from day one, and then Trump eventually came back in his closing remarks to say that, okay, you're going to do it from day one, but what were you doing for last 3.5 years?
Why didn't you fix it?
You should have fixed it because you are in power. So it is going to be an
Barack Obama had said, yes, we can. Trump said, make America great again. Now, Kamala Harris is offering freedom and opportunity to American people. So what will be American people's response to Kamala Harris' appeal?
Well, America has always been the land of opportunity, and she is saying that she believes in the core values of the American Constitution or the American system, which is, obviously values of freedom. And America is a land of opportunity, and it will remain to be a land of opportunity. So she's just trying to reiterate the American values. She doesn't have a slogan like Trump has, that whereas Trump's approach is that America is on the decline, and he wants to make America great again and again, because it's
mm,
not doing as well as it should have been, or it's not doing as well as it was doing during his regime.
mm,
So the response is that, look, when this election cycle started, with Joe Biden as the nominee from the Democratic Party, no one expected this to happen, and
mm.
Kamala Harris's nomination was a big surprise in that sense.
Yes,
And initially it was thought that it would be a cakewalk for Trump, but now
mm,
it looks like it's going to be a neck to neck race, and we are going to
mm.
see. I think it will go all the way to the end. I mean, something that I don't think Donald Trump expected.
About abortion issue, do American women prefer Kamala Harris than Donald Trump?
Absolutely, because abortion is a abortion rights is the strongest issue for the Democrats. Since Trump's nominees created a Supreme Court majority to overturn the constitutional right to an
Mm,
abortion. Kamala Harris's sharp arguments provided a vivid contrast to Joe Biden's rambling comments on the issue
mm,
during the previous debate. And what Trump did, that his Supreme Court's nominees, they overturned Roe versus Wade, which paved the way for 22 states to ban abortion. And I think it's a very, very important issue for almost. I mean,
yes,
they did a recent poll of almost 60% Americans, out of which 76% support Kamala Harris. And Harris is a very, very strong proponent of the state or the government should not be telling women what they should do to their bodies. So
mm,
I think when it comes to abortion, it's not only an important issue for the Democrats, but it's also an important issue for a lot of women, especially
yes.
women in urban and suburban areas.
Rohit, Kamala Harris is African American and she has Indian origins. Do Indians in America love her for this reason?
I think the Indian community is extremely excited about her candidacy, especially women. She is biracial because her father
Mm.
was from Jamaica, mother from India, and she was practically raised by a mother. So she identifies as both, and Trump tried to make a big deal about her background, and eventually he obviously said that, oh, he loves both, but he said she's not sure whether she was an Indian American. Now election time, she's an African American. But I think the Indian community is excited with her candidacy because she's a brown skinned person, the first brown skinned woman to run for the office, first Indian American to run for the office. So there is an excitement in the Indian community, and people actually love her biracial background.
Okay. Rohit, there are two more serious issues, Russia-Ukraine war and Israel-Palestine conflict, violence in Gaza. So Kamala Harris has said violence in Gaza should be stopped. What is the difference between stands by Donald Trump and by Kamala Harris on this issue?
Well, Trump has been saying that when he was the president, there were no wars under his regime. Whereas,
Hmm.
under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, there have been, the Russia-Ukraine war and obviously the conflict in the Middle East. He has been making it a big issue that if he's elected president, even
Yes.
before he takes the oath, he will try to stop the war in Ukraine. And he says that he has a great relationship with Putin, which will allow him to stop the war in one day. Whereas, the other conflict, he says that he'll offer a solution and he'll be able to stop it. Uh, Kamala Harris on the other side, they have been trying for last I don't know, few months, maybe 6 months, to stop the conflict in Gaza. They have offered a solution to both parties, and I don't think it has been agreed yet because Netanyahu wants
Mhm.
Hamas to return the hostages. So it's a more complex issue, the Gaza conflict, and also there is now the whole issue of Iran trying to intervene. So
Yes.
it's a more complex issue. But whereas Ukraine and Russia, I think Donald Trump's approach is that it's a war that should be stopped. Innocent people are getting killed, and also it
Mm,
is putting a burden on the American economy because US has
mm,
provided more than $250 billion to Ukraine, and he wants European countries to take to pay some of that money to
mm.
Ukraine and
Yes.
not just ask America to do it. So both parties
Mm,
have different approaches, and both
mm,
want somewhere even both want these conflicts to end. But on one side, when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, obviously Kamala Harris wants Ukraine to win the war. Whereas on the other side, I think the mindless killings, especially the killings of kids in Gaza and innocent civilians being killed, I think that conflict needs to stop, and I think they are committed to stopping it.
This is the month of September. In American election, there is one phenomenon called October surprise. So what it will be?
It's very hard to say right now because there are no skeletons in the closet, as they say. We both know everything about Donald Trump, and most of the things about Vice President Harris are also very, very well known. So I don't think there will be any surprise as such unless something drastically goes wrong with the economy, or something drastically goes wrong in terms of the foreign policy aspect. If there is a new conflict that emerges somewhere in the world. Or if there are no more cases of criminal activity by illegal immigrants or something of that nature. Right now, it pretty much looks like both are going to continue to hold their rallies and try to gather more support, especially in the swing states. And it will continue until November. So I don't see
Any surprise?
Surprise in October. But you can never know. I mean, there have been occasions where things have happened. So let's see what happens.
Rohit, what do you feel? What do you think? Finally, will America get woman president?
The chances are there. I mean, this election is really neck to neck. And a lot of polls have shown, given the margin of error, sometimes Harris is up by a few points, sometimes Trump is up by a few points, and even in the swing states, they are running neck to neck. So it's going to be a great contest, and I think it will go all the way to the end, because I feel that this is going to be one of the most it will be one of the closest elections we have ever seen. And again, it will depend on what happens in the next 2 months, how the independents and how the swing states look at these two candidates, and what kind of support they gather.
Rohit, you are originally from Pune, Maharashtra, India, and now you have become American citizen. So how excited you are about this election, and how excited all the people about this election?
Election season is obviously a really exciting season, and especially when you get an opportunity to go and vote, it makes it even more exciting. Personally, I love going the traditional way, where I go to the booth, I meet some people there, and they check my ID card, and then I vote. And in the US, we still vote the traditional way, where we are using a pencil to circle the name of the candidate. So I sort of enjoy that process, So I'm very excited for this election, and I'm looking forward to voting in November.
Yes. Rohit, thank you so much for talking to us, talking to One India English. Do subscribe and share our YouTube channel, One India English.
Don't miss out. Log on to oneindia.com for more updates.